All right, we're here going over Week 12 recap, league name TBD. With us today, we have Jake Fossler, Max Reimer filling in for Jason Nygren, and your host, as always, Ben Schmidtke. A couple quick things that we'll go over. Week 13 is this week, which means trades, waivers all lock up when the players lock up. So you've got, Wednesday, Thursday to do a couple teams, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to do the rest. And if you need a guy on Monday, somehow you might be able to get him. But yeah, so that all locks up. Get your trades in, get things going. I anticipate a lot of trades taking place just before the deadline. Like Jake said earlier, he's kind of throwing in the towel for this year. So he's going to be looking for some deals for prospective guys, which makes me happy, as Max posted in our Slack channel. If the league were to go into playoffs this week, I would face Jake, which would make me happy since he is Ertzless. So let's take a quick look back at the last week.
One quick note on that, though, the dumb money that starts to fly around for free agent dollars, knowing that this is the last week that people can pick up, free agents. That's also going to be something to pay attention to because a lot of people still have a lot of free agent dollars left in our league, myself included. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And there's one team every year that generally finishes with at least $100 or more left, and that is our reigning champion, Phil Twist. Currently, the only guy above $100 with 109. The next closest is Adam with 79. However, Adam had like $300 at one point or something this year, so he's obviously spent the most out of everybody. But yeah, I mean, when you trade for $114 and you make Jude sit at zero for 10 weeks straight, it's pretty easy to spend money. Oof.
That's like that seems like mismanagement to me, though. I mean, to have that much left over at the end of the year. I'd have to look at Phil and see what he did, but
nothing. His team from the beginning of the year till now is pretty much the same. There's a few guys that he's acquired over the year, but it hasn't been much. Yeah, let's take a quick look at Week 12 here. So Max guaranteed a win. After Thursday night, he's a little skittish, and then he was a little bit more skittish, and then he won. So congratulations, Max, on your guarantee. You're 2 for 2 of the year.
Thanks.
Couple
things. I try to speak things into reality in this league. So
yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Too quick. Sorry, not too quick. Sorry. Gus Edwards, quick highlights. Gus Edwards, second week of 10-plus points. And then Aaron Jones is just kind of showing off a little bit, getting another week of touchdowns. And then one low light of this week for our matchup was Thomas, who got a season low of 5.8 points. Jake and Phil went against each other. Jake lost, moving him to 6-6. Phil went to 8-4. Watson got 29.2 points. Nicholas Chubb showing what he can do with the 26.3 points, getting a lot of work there. A low point was Kiki QT with 2.4 points. You got to expect a lot more out of him, but Demaryius Thomas was kind of the showboat of that matchup for Houston.
Pulling your hamstring doesn't help either. But
did Kiki pull his hamstring?
Yeah, for the third time this year.
Oh, okay. Well,
he's got to get on a stretching routine.
And he was adamant that he was not going to come back until he was 100%. So either he just had a freak tweak or he was not ready.
Yeah, he lied. He came back too early.
Okay. And this is coming from the physical therapist himself. You can find him at Fantasy Football PT, something like that, on Twitter.
If you want to look at good hamstring management, look at what the Vikings did with Dalvin Cook. Look at what the Jags did with Leonard Fournette. If you want to look at bad hamstring management, look at what every single team has ever done with Alshon Jeffrey. These guys these are high explosive athletes. These guys need 4, 5, 6 weeks sometimes, depending on where it is. It's nuts how they think they can come back in 2.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So you think? Did you see Xavier Rhodes' hamstring? Do you think that thing is torn or what? See that injury?
I'm not sure. I know that Zimmer came out and said it's very, very mild, which is one more very mild than Dalvin Cook's was reported to be. So, and he was out for what, 6 weeks? So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure he'll have an MRI. I haven't seen reports there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the shelf until playoffs.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely going to hurt the Vikings defense for us fantasy players coming week 14 through 16. So I don't know who owns the Vikings defense, but let's be honest, at this point, they haven't been all that good this season.
That would be Jason.
Okay. Well, good, because I don't want him to do much. Monty and Adam went off together here. Monty lost, moving him to 4-8. Adam moves up to 3-9. Adam was 0-8 4 weeks ago, and he's now 3-9, and he still has a chance to make playoffs.
A pretty good chance.
Yeah,
it's not your typical 3-9 team. Actually, I think he's just got to win and outscore Monty by a couple of points, huh?
Yeah, I think it's like 19 points he has to outscore him by and get the W. So, but he also Monty has to lose in order for that to happen. So there's a lot of possibilities for who's going to get that 8 seed. Elijah did lock it up this week because of help of other people losing. So he's secured a spot. He's good to go. Now everybody's fighting for that 8 seed. So we'll see what happens. Highlights, though, Monty gets right on Baker Mayfield at 28.7 points. And the Adams running back from – not Adams, but Joseph Adams? What's his name?
Josh Adams. Yeah,
Josh Adams, Philadelphia.
For the Eagles.
16.4 points. Amari Cooper got a season high of 34 points, which is awesome that he scored 34 points against his previous owner. And Juju Smith-Schuster got a 97-yard touchdown reception from Big Ben. I'll be honest, I was at my parents' house watching this game, screaming out of excitement, seeing that 24-point play happen. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, at that point, he pretty much locked up the match. It really didn't look back. He was facing a defense, so it was basically a defense versus the rest of his team. And when I looked at it, Adam had something like a 17-point lead just off of that play. So
yeah, he was down quite a bit, and the projections were showing that Adam had a chance of losing, but that play, like you said, just locked it up for him. Yep. Low light Monty guessed wrong on Elijah McGuire. Trey Boo Boo only got 2.8 points. Leonard Fournette is suspended for one game at the time being. He is trying to fight it. I don't see why they wouldn't, remove that one game suspension. Nobody wants to watch the Jaguars if he's not playing. And
right. I thought that was a great point, Ben.
Does anybody really want to watch the Jaguars? I mean, Bortles is out.
Well, Cody Kessler sells tickets. Let's not kid ourselves here.
He's like the Joe Mauer of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Evan Worthman, ex-league member, big Jaguars fan.
I would be shocked if they overturn the suspension. If you watch the play, Leonard Fournette wasn't involved in the physical. Yeah, he wasn't involved in the play. He put his helmet on, ran in, threw punches. It was the biggest boneheaded move I've seen in a long time. There's no way he plays this weekend.
Didn't Marshawn Lynch do that last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, he didn't put his helmet on, though.
Yeah, no, he wasn't smart enough to put the helmet on.
Yeah.
He just ran out there.
It is the ultimate. This is one of the big reasons why many of these football players, if they weren't playing football, God knows what they'd be doing. I mean, you really have to be an idiot to start throwing hands on people when they have a helmet on. I said that in Slack, and my goodness. Because he was throwing punches at a guy who still had his helmet on. At least take the helmet off.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. You're looking to break your hands at that point. And that's a season ender for anyone. So
if Fournette was part of the original play and ended up throwing punches, I could see the suspension being overturned. But there's no way he plays this weekend.
Yeah. No,
that really hurts Adam's chances then. That really impacts his team.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think Jordan Howard fixes that problem.
I did offer him, full disclosure, I did offer him Adrian Peterson, and he did not take that deal. So,
what did you want in return?
It was reasonable. I'll let him. If he wants to elaborate on that, I'll let him elaborate on that. But
okay. Yeah, and then also for Adam, he got a 0 out of his tight end. He got hurt during warm-ups. But no, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Ertz put up like a 3 or something like that.
Which is better than 0.
It's fair. That's fair.
The 2 weeks surrounding that.
Ertz put up like almost 40 like against me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex and Jason went up against each other. Alex obviously had no chance. He's at 4-8. Jason's at 11-1. Although his running back Miller, 23.3 points. Sony Michel 21.5. Lowlights Alex's entire team and his bench. Just terrible. Hopefully he can do something with his draft picks to make it better. And Gordon, Melvin Gordon's done for the year with his torn ACL. And Aaron Rodgers with a season low of 9.9 points for Jason. But, I mean, when you're facing Alex, you can handle injuries and be fine still.
Alex might have the worst team in the league. Is that consensus at this point? It's really bad.
I mean, record-wise, he doesn't.
No, but roster-wise?
Roster-wise, yeah. Yeah, his team's pretty bad.
So one clarification there. Melvin Gordon, is that who you're talking about with out for the year?
Yep.
So he sprained his MCL. He did not tear his ACL.
Oh.
So he's out for he's week to week. He's out for probably a couple weeks. They're hoping to have him back before the playoffs. I would say targeting a date of their matchup with Kansas City would be the best case scenario. So he's not out for the season unless I missed something. Sprained MCL, not torn ACL.
So from what I read, and this was probably about an hour ago, it's 2 to 4 weeks, which effectively I think you can probably, because correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Chargers are doing pretty well in the playoff hunt. So I would imagine that they're going to take their time with him. So he's effectively out, I think, for Jason as long as our playoffs last.
So the way that I interpret this is I saw the same 2 to 4 week time frame. In 2 weeks, if he sits out 2 weeks, that would be returning for the matchup against Kansas City, which, if things hold true, the winner of that matchup would win their division.
Sure.
Which obviously has huge implications, home field advantage, all of these things. So if he can go, that would be a week to put him in. But obviously the bigger picture is a Super Bowl run, so they're going to be smart with it. So I would say that more than likely it'll be the 3 or 4 weeks, which would maybe put him back for fantasy championship. But there is that outside chance that they're able to stabilize everything and get him back for that tilt against Kansas City, which obviously Jason would be cheering for.
The other thing about Jason's roster, and obviously I'm a huge Packer fan, but just because Aaron Rodgers hypothetically here has a powder puff schedule for a while, the Packers do, something mechanically is wrong with Aaron Rodgers. He is not the Aaron Rodgers right now that we have been accustomed to seeing. So those games are not gimmies for Jason either. I could see the Packers really reinventing themselves and going heavy on the run game. especially against Arizona, who they have next week. And then, Chicago is no slouch defense either for the playoffs too. I think Jason's in trouble for the playoffs as I look at the roster and I look at the Melvin Gordon situation. Aaron Rodgers is not going to overperform, in my opinion, the rest of the season. The Packers are a broken team right now, Aaron Rodgers included. So
I heard Aaron Rodgers described today as a streaming quarterback. I didn't think I'd ever hear those words describe, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play the game.
Well, even coming into this week, he's only QB 13 right now. I mean, that's really bad for him.
Right.
Yeah. As far as Aaron Rodgers goes, I would consider that bust territory, up and down any style league, whether it's a quarterback or not, because in the league Jake runs, he was drafted in the first round. He was 1.04, I'm pretty sure. Was the pick that I had. I took Aaron Rodgers.
You would know, yeah.
I would know. But yeah, he's doing terrible. I don't like it. But let's continue on real quick.
Obviously, if there's a quarterback that can snap out of it and win a league, it's him. But it doesn't look good.
This year's different. I'm again, as a guy who's watched the Packers for my whole life, and Aaron Rodgers for his whole career, every game. I'm an owner. I have a cheesehead right here. This is different. It's different. This situation is different. The Packers right now are a broken, demoralized team. There are things that are wrong with Rodgers' mechanics. He's not seeing the field. I posted in Slack earlier. There was one play in particular where he had Jimmy Graham on about a 7-yard crossing route right in front of him. I mean, I think we could have made that pass. Us three could have made that pass. And he's either purposefully tanking or has the yips of some kind. But something's wrong. Something is wrong with Aaron Rodgers.
Fair enough. Last matchup of the week. Let's get this done here. Zach 4-8. Jared fell to 3-9. Zach pulling out a big win. Cousins having a 29.5 point week definitely helped. I'm pretty sure that was a third of his score. And low lights this week. It doesn't knock Jared out of playoff contention, but it definitely hurts him falling back. Instead of just needing a win, he needs to win and score points. So it's going to be interesting. Top 5 performers of this last week, or top performers of this week. Kirk Cousins, 29.5 points for Zach. Running back, we had Christian McCaffrey at 41.2 points for Jude. Let me just throw this out here real quick. Every week, Jude has somebody on this list.
I know.
Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 4. But he always has one guy on this list in any position. Wide receiver, Amari Cooper, 34 points for Adam. Ebron, 19 points for Jared. We had 2 defenses score 21 points, the Ravens and the Saints. Phil got the Ravens, and the Saints are currently on the waiver wire. 3 kickers all scored 12 points this week. We had Sebastian Janikowski, some guy named Rosas, and then the Houston kicker, Kimi, Jake Owens, and the other 2 are free agents. So a lot of points left out on free agency this week. For that. Yeah.
As the resident Saints fan, I'm going to laugh whoever decides to throw money at that defense. Don't waste those 21 points. I'm just saying they had an excellent game. They played Atlanta. They historically are the big brother to Atlanta. They do have 2 games against Carolina left, and they own Cam Newton, so you could probably start them those 2 weeks. But that 21-point output was not representative of their defense. They're an improved defense from the historically garbage defenses that Drew Brees is accustomed to playing with. But I would feel very unconfident starting them in fantasy football.
They do have a matchup though coming up against Tampa Bay, which bodes well for them as well.
Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick shredded them in week 1.
That's true.
Their only loss in the season.
Yep.
They're a different team now, though, it seems.
Last 5 weeks, week 8 against Minnesota, they put up 18 points. Week 9 against the Rams, this is an outlier, -5. Then 10 against Kansas City, 13. Week 11, Philadelphia, 16. And week 12 against Atlanta, 21. So, I mean, in the last 5 weeks, kicking out that outlier.
Is clicking. Their offense is clicking, which helps the defense. But, you know, statistically, they're rated number 1 against the run. I think that has more to do with the fact that they're up by 21 points and people can't run against them. They've got defensive backs who can make a play here and there. They've got an excellent play out of linebackers. I'm just saying it, watching the games, I watch every minute of every game. I don't ever feel comfortable when the defense is on the field. I'm generally standing up, biting my fingers, because it's any given moment that they're going to bust a long one. Maybe it's just history that's telling me that that's what's going to happen, because I've endured the league worst, NFL record worst defense a couple of years back, and a lot of the players that are playing right now are still from that defense. There's a few key changes. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore, is an elite talent in the making. Some of the D line has improved, but for the most part, these are the same guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
Their defense was pretty good last year, though.
Yep. Opportunistic turnovers. That's the name of the game. And if you can get out to a 21-point lead, that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping to the notable waiver wires. I've got a list of some guys that I think are notable. You guys have anybody that falls off the page for you guys for waiver wire pickups?
One of them for me, just piggybacking off of the conversation we just had, and Jake obviously has some insight into it, but one of them for me is the Saints defense. I think at least that matchup with Tampa Bay week 14 looks real juicy. I think it's a different team that played Tampa Bay than it is now. One other waiver wire pickup that I am just interested in is people start to throw money at different pieces, backup quarterbacks, preparing for the playoffs. Guys like Matt Prater, Detroit kicker. He's another one who jumps off the page. Our quarterback pool in the free agent, our free agent pool for quarterbacks is super scarce. Eli Manning is one of the best quarterbacks we have right now in waivers. So, any quarterback at this point, is people are looking for backups for the playoffs, could be an interesting waiver wire addition.
Well, I think you could do worse than the Saints defense for sure. Here's hoping, that they are an elite fantasy defense. I think that's going to help them continue to hold the home field advantage. But I can also see that turning on a dime. I just know that I wouldn't feel overly confident starting them. Obviously, you can get the output out of them, but maybe it's the fan in me that's just a little nervous, a little hesitant about that. I think that the waiver wire sets up more for the teams looking towards next year. Just looking at the available players, I think Ben's got listed here Josh Allen, a player who has flashed some skill, over 100 yards rushing this week. Obviously in fantasy that's huge. So maybe somebody stashes him for next year, throws a little bit of money at him. But as for plug and play starts through the playoffs, boy, pretty tough out there.
No, absolutely. And I know one thing, like Max brought up Prater, you got to have depth when it goes into playoffs.
Right.
Jude knows the most. And I've said this numerous times on Slack, because year one, Jude should have won the championship.
Yes.
But I think he had 3 tight ends and they all had concussions. And because of that, and him not reading the rules and understanding that there's no waivers during playoffs, he was not able to play a tight end any of those 3 weeks.
Yes.
So get depth on your rosters if you're in playoffs. Add a second kicker if you want. Risk it if you want. Whatever. There's, like Jake said, there's going to be 2 guys at least on every roster that's never going to play. Drop one of those guys. Pick up a kicker. Make sure that you're protecting yourself going into playoffs. So
you have
to. You know what?
You have to, because there will be. Listen, this happens every year. Between now and the end of our playoffs, there will be a devastating injury that happens, and we don't see it right now, but there will be. There always is.
Yep. And the teams that are not in the playoffs, you know, the ones that are mathematically eliminated or the, you know, less than 10% chance, this is an excellent opportunity to watch what the playoff teams are dropping. If they've been stashing potential, maybe you want to stash that now and rub it in their face next year after that guy hits.
Unfortunately for Zach.
And to Jake's point, though, for players eliminated, this is also a time where people are starting to think about depth for the first time, you know, all season, where you have relatively a good roster you're comfortable with. There are some trade opportunities. I think you see with the trade that Adam just made, there is this, if you're in the hunt or you're looking to add depth, there is this desperation that starts to sink in for some of those teams this time of year. So you can get some pretty sweet deals.
Me every year. I'm always looking for where can I, you know, one up a starting roster spot guy.
That's right.
But
that's why.
Man, why don't you drink a few more of those fireballs and we'll talk trades.
I'm almost done with this one.
All right, pour another.
Yeah, Ben, we need you to have your beer goggles on when I make an offer for Adrian. When I offer you Adrian Peterson later on tonight.
Perfect.
Sounds good. But yeah, you guys hit on Allen. 2 other things that I looked at was Bruce Ellington, wide receiver for Detroit. Jones Jr. he's out. Tate was traded. They don't really have a tight end. The running back situation is, you know, kind of up in the air as far as who's going to be doing what, just because of potential injuries. I mean, even I guess number 25, I can't think of his name.
Theo
Riddick. He's an option. He lined up at wide receiver multiple times last week. So a lot of opportunities out in Detroit. However, they're terrible. I wouldn't suggest picking up any of those guys.
Bruce Ellington is a good player, really.
Yeah.
He's had a really rough injury history, but when he's been on the field, he's been a productive PPR guy. I mean, he's not going to score 30, but if you need 8 points, he'll probably get you there.
It's a possibility.
Also, ESPN wide, the top pickup wide receiver between yesterday and today is Dontrell Inman in our league. What is up with that? I haven't heard too much noise from him, and it looks like his stats haven't been wonderful.
He was a late addition to the Colts, and he's kind of being integrated into the offense. And every time I watch them play, so I typically, when the Saints aren't on, I typically watch the NFL Red Zone, so I get a little bit of every game. And it seems like every time the Colts are on, there's a target to Inman or there's a catch to Inman, and then there's some announcer talking about how every time anybody asks Andrew Luck or Frank Reich about Inman, they just gush. So I feel like it's a lot of coach speak, it's a lot of quarterback speak that they want to get this guy involved. Are they going to do it? I don't know. But you could do worse than having a part of a guy that's got 8 straight games with 3+ touchdowns.
And yeah, I mean, Luck is just chucking it all over the field.
No,
I mean,
he's
throwing picks, and he's on fire from a fantasy perspective, and they are winning games. But you know, I own him, and listen, he's throwing 2-3 picks a game. He's throwing 50 times a game. It's Andrew Chuck, baby.
Yeah. So I think the thought there is that if a piece of a guy who's throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns is on the waiver wire, why not?
Yeah. 2 defenses to look at as well, aside from the Saints. if you need to win this week, Dolphins against Buffalo is a good opportunity there. It's a home game for the Dolphins. And then looking at playoffs, Buffalo themselves actually, week 14, you've got them against the Jets. Week 15, you're at Detroit. Both games are at home out in New York. So it's a good week 14, 15 matchup. And then they've got week 16 out in New England. But Tom Brady seems to struggle against those New York teams, whether it's the Jets, the Giants, or Buffalo. So a lot of opportunity.
Tom Brady's kind of struggling against everybody right now.
He's bad. He's bad.
They're still winning. They're still winning.
Yep. But that's why I went and picked up another quarterback. Some league activity that took place. There's a blockbuster deal to put his way into playoffs. Hey, you guys has struck a deal with Dilly Dilly Jake. Adam sent over Darius Geis, Evan Ingram, and a conditional 2021 pick, locking up his 2021st and second until that pick is delivered. If Ingram is a top 5 player, he gets a second. But if he's not a top 5 player, as far as I'm assuming tight ends, not as overall players, he gets a first. So pretty certain Jake's going to be getting Adam's 2021 first, assuming Phil doesn't win this year. And then Adam got Zach Ertz out of that deal. And then Adam sent over Anthony Miller to Jason for Jordan Howard. Pretty even trade. I don't think anyone really won that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that latter trade doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah. I mean, it was something that he needed to do to stay relevant, and Jason has been worried about Jordan Howard, so it makes sense that he'd want to get rid of him. But, I mean, lateral move, but, you know, it helped Adam's team in the short run at least, and it gives Adam or Jason a little bit of future prospect in Miller. So some opportunities there.
Speaking of future, I mean, Jake, you really shored up a lot of, because listen, I mean, Geis has top 7, top 8 upside next year. I think we all get recency bias, and I think just because you have to wait on Geis doesn't make him any less talented. Really, I think a lot of people viewed Geis as 1B to 1A Saquon Barkley this year. So the player that you're getting there, I think Adam really actually hurt himself making that deal with you.
Well, look at this roster that Jake has coming for next year. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's doing some good stuff out in Baltimore right now. If he doesn't, he's still got Matt Ryan. He's got Nick Chubb. He's got Geis coming up. Tevin Coleman's going to be a free agent. Yes, he's going to be sitting backseat to Bell, but that's still a viable running back that could get, you know, a premier role. His wide receiver situation is probably the thing that's lacking the most. He's got Christian Kirk, Allen Robinson, Will Fuller the fifth, who we know is out.
Marlon Mack, give him a full year worth of play. Watching Andrew Luck this year, obviously you see Marlon Mack play. They have a solid RB1 in Marlon Mack.
Yep. I think Jake is the Jared Eckert 2.0. Everybody was scared of Jared having Fournette, Hunt, and Kamara. You know, that 3-headed monster. Now it's only a 2-headed monster, but Jake's sitting on 4 really good running backs right now. And 3 of them are rookies, if I'm correct, right? Is Marlon Mack a rookie?
No, he's a second-year player.
Second year? Okay. But still, you've got two Studley rookies, one who is hurt this year, but he's going to take AP's job next year, assuming full health.
Yeah.
He tore it early, so he'll be back for camp. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, he should be fine.
Jake's got a lot of opportunity.
I had Geis rated as my number 3 as a rookie because of injury concerns. He's never had anything major like this before, but at LSU, he was just always kind of banged up a little bit. But he usually played through it. Evan Ingram, I don't know if it's kind of hard to remember because of how bad he's been this year, but if you looked at any dynasty startup list, he was tight end 3 or 4 on every single list.
Yeah,
because he had a heck of a rookie year. But he had a heck of a rookie year on the back of everybody else from a target standpoint was dead in New York. Beckham was out. Everybody else. Sterling Shepard was really the only other target who was viable there. But he's a second-year player. He was a first-round pick. Let's say he returns value and takes the third-year bump that a lot of receivers get, because that's really what he is. He's a big receiver, and he ends up being a top 5 tight end in a barren tight end landscape.
Sure.
Now I'll take that. He's 24 instead of Ertz will be 29 when next year starts. Obviously, I gave up the best player today in that trade, but I feel pretty confident that next year's value will swing back my direction on that.
Yeah, I agree. Let's dive into this week's matchups. So we've got some matchups that, I guess every matchup this week really matters as far as placement goes. A win could, keep people in the same spot. A loss can move you down. First matchup of the week, we have myself versus Zach. Currently, 29 points ahead of him as far as projections go. There's something to say about projections, and that something is they're never right. My projections are always, I think my projections are always inflated just because ESPN looks at the name of the guys and goes, oh, yes, he's going to get 15 points because he's David Johnson. It's like, no, David Johnson's been really bad so far. He's going to get like 9, but Zach's projected to get 94. I'm projected to get 123. In all honesty, I think it's going to be a little bit closer just because of the matchups. The Vikings are going out to New England, assuming that there's not a whole lot of snow. It should be a lot of passing taking place. Could be some running, but that game's going to be up in the air just because you don't know what's going to happen with the scheme of who's playing catch up and what. So,
right.
I do think I'll get the win and move to 9-4 and lock myself in at that 3 seed.
I like your chances there too.
Yeah. That will kick Zach out of playoff contention, falling to 4-9. Just because he doesn't have the points to keep up with everybody else. Next matchup we have is Jake and Alex.
I am rooting for Zach in this one, by the way. I'm rooting for Zach, and then if I outscore you, Ben, this week and win my matchup, if I outscore you by about 20 points, I'll take your seed in the playoffs, and you'll get bounced one. So
honestly, I would be okay with that. Like I said, last week, I would be okay with a loss to you, and I'd also be okay with a loss this week because I would rather go up against
Phil.
I'd rather go up against Phil week 1. I'd rather go up against Jason week 2. I really don't want to see Jude until the championship because of what we talked about, where if Kansas City has locked up, that
I don't, with the Chargers as close on their heels as they are, they're not going to have the benefit of rest.
No, they're not. They're not. The big factor is the weather. Too. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but
you'd rather play Phil than Jake?
I wouldn't want to see Phil. I wouldn't want to go against Gurley ever.
Yeah.
Gurley could score 40.
He did that a couple times in the playoffs last year, where he just went off for almost 50 in some cases.
And now they've had a bye to figure out how to deal with the loss of Cooper Kupp. You thought that he was getting involved in the passing game before? Wait till this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I want no part of the Phil matchup. If I can jump you, Ben, and make you play Phil and hope for a Gurley injury or something of that nature. Listen, if I have to play you, Jake, or Phil, I'm playing you 10 out of 10 times.
11, if possible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Jake will beat Alex, though. Alex is even if Alex tosses in a quarterback that gets 14 points, I mean, he's looking at 81 points to Jake's 100. Alex hasn't scored over 100 points in a few weeks. This matchup should be locked.
Irrelevant.
Unless Jake poops the bed, which he has done a few times.
Well, to be fair, there's a pretty big hole in tight end right now on my roster, and my wide receivers leave a lot to be desired. Because the quarterback that Alex can put in is Goff, and that's 30 plus points potential. So I could see, if Christian Kirk gets 2 passes for 8 yards, and Allen Robinson doesn't have one of his 3 good games of the year, I could see losing to him. And at this point, like I said, after that Ertz trade, it's irrelevant for me. I'm in the playoffs. Best case scenario with Ertz, I upset one team and then lose. So,
kitty.
Yeah,
kitty. You're gonna win this week. We'll move on. This is a big matchup here. Is Phil versus Adam. Projected pretty close. 2.2 point spread. It's going to be an exciting matchup to see Adam and Phil go against each other this week. I mean, you've got Russell.
I'm gonna say Adam, but I'm not gonna say it with much confidence.
I'm gonna agree with you with Adam, but I'm gonna say it with a lot of confidence.
Wow.
Yep. I think Adam's gonna take this week by at least 10 points.
Do you realize how bad Detroit's rush defense is?
Yeah, they're 23rd.
And how good Todd Gurley is.
Yeah, he's number 1.
Yeah.
And with that, I think Adam takes it by 10 points.
If that is the case, and I don't necessarily agree, actually, I think just the way that Adam has approached these last couple of weeks, it always seems to just come up short when you're desperately making trades, when you are trying like hell to get in. And I know that because I did it last year. It always seems to come up a little bit short, and there's nothing statistical about that necessarily. It's just what I've witnessed the past few years. Teams that try to make up this desperate, make this desperate push at the end come up a little bit short. So I'm going to say Phil in this one. Listen, if Adam does win and Adam gets into the playoffs, I want no part of that. I want no part of his team. I really don't.
So aside from Jake, who do you want a part of?
Well, Jake would be number 1.
Yeah.
As I look at it, if a guy like Monty were to sneak into the playoffs, I would like to play him. Monty would need to beat me this week. Elijah, I would take Elijah matchup all day. I mean, Elijah, I think, aside, you know what, even including Jake, I think if Elijah makes it into the playoffs, Elijah will be the worst team in the playoffs. So Elijah, Jake, Monty. If Jared were to sneak in, I could live with that.
Alex, Elijah, Jake, Monty.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I was going to say, because Alex is still in conversation.
I don't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't see Jake losing. I don't see Jake losing this week. But Adam's roster, he's made a lot of dramatic changes, but his rosters have been pretty good, I think, most of the season. And now with the addition of Ertz, Ertz caught fire when I played him last 2 weeks ago, Jake, when you beat me. If Ertz can put up 33, 34 points on Adam's roster, I don't want to play him. In fact, if Adam has to play Jason week 1,
I might vote for Adam on that one.
I think I'm with I think I'm with you, Jake. I can see Adam winning that matchup.
Yeah. If Fournette was playing this week, I would be as confident as Ben. Adam by double digits. Jordan Howard gives me zero confidence.
Agreed.
At all.
Guess how many points he's had combined the last 3 weeks?
Jordan Howard. 10.
16.
Split the difference. 12.7.
Yeah, he's been atrocious.
They don't like him in that offense. Yeah.
Even last week, backup quarterback, handling the football game, not involved.
Yeah.
7 carries or something like that. It was terrible.
7 carries, 13 yards.
He's awful. He's irrelevant, which is sad because he's been a good football player his whole career.
Well, if he goes to a different team that plays a little bit more traditional style offense next year, I think you could actually see him. I think it might be a decent longer term pickup.
Raiders?
Adam? Yeah, maybe like a Raiders or something like that where he can fill that Marshawn Lynch role. But in that Matt Nagy, that younger offense where they really like Cohen. They really like mixing it up with him.
You got to be dynamic. You got to be able to catch football. He can catch better this year, but he's not dynamic with the football.
Right. There's one guy in this chat right now who was very high on Cohen at the beginning of the season. This guy.
That guy? Do you have any of him?
I do in your league. I almost kept him in the 12th round.
But then you traded me for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, took Hopkins in the 5th, so then I drafted Cohen early in the 9th.
He's all right.
He's awesome. But yeah, so
he's only like 170 pounds. You know that?
Yeah, but
he's one hit away from being dead. Really.
Yeah. Give me 170 pounds of milk chocolate any day. Thank you. Next matchup, not at all. Everybody likes milk chocolate.
Racist.
Okay, she said. Next matchup, Jason versus Elijah. No longer the team going to miss playoffs, but is listed as underdogs. Yeah. Jason wins this week. Elijah falls to 5-8, still makes playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think this one will be a blowout.
Yep.
Let's
move to the next one since we don't want to waste too much time on irrelevant matchups. Next one is Jared versus Jude. I mean, not to throw out the word irrelevant matchup, but I mean, Mahomes, McCaffrey, Eckler as a lead back, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins apparently is hitting his flex position again. And, you know, Harrison Butker, Jude takes this week.
Why are you talking about kickers?
Just because he's got
they're irrelevant.
I mean, he's got the number one quarterback, he's got the number 1 wide receiver, he's got the number 3 tight end.
Don't talk to me about number 1 kickers. They're irrelevant.
Not last year.
Greg Zuerlein, you can talk to Zach, man. I mean, he was the top scorer on Zach's team, and Zach made playoffs last year.
Let me pull up Greg Zuerlein's final stats last year.
He honestly scored more than most quarterbacks.
I know he was good. I played against him lots of times.
Hey, one crazy thing about this matchup as you're looking that up, Ben, Jared is projected for 115 points, which is a pretty darn good projection, but he is still projected to lose by 20 points to Jude. Jude's projected for 140 points this week almost.
I saw an article, and I think it was on ESPN, which essentially makes it irrelevant, but it was talking about a scenario where maybe not next year, but maybe, you know, in the next couple of years, where Christian McCaffrey is viewed as the RB1 over Todd Gurley in a PPR format or half-point PPR format because of his. I mean, he is an elite route runner. He looks like a slot receiver when he's split outside. He doesn't look like a running back anymore, but he catches the ball and runs like running back. And I know everybody's knock on him was he's too small to handle the workload. I haven't seen any sign of wearing down, and he's handled every bit of any workload. You know, I don't know that anybody's got a bigger percentage, and if so, not by much, than him this year.
Yeah,
he looks good.
So Greg Zuerlein last year, okay, he scored 178 points. which was 20 points less than Rob Gronkowski. Okay.
Cool.
If Zerline was a wide receiver, he would be wide receiver 16.
Yeah.
If he was a running back, he'd be running back 16. If he was a quarterback, he'd be quarterback 22. And if he was a defense, he would have been defense number 9. So
you have one relevant kicker.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
1 year.
Gostkowski scored 11 points less than him last year, and Robbie Gold.
1 year, you had 1 or 2 maybe irrelevant kickers.
Three kickers scored 10 points on average or more last year.
Cool.
Just throwing that out there.
If you have a kicker like that, he's a game changer. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
He is. I think the point about it that I don't like is that there's no real way that I've been able to read about or hear about or have somebody explain to me that is a valid, so fantasy football is all about mitigating risk, right? It's about trying to set the optimal lineup to score points and limit the amount of negative risk that you're taking.
And bench your players if you've locked a win.
Yeah, that is a whole different conversation.
I can't believe anyone's arguing against that. It's very weird.
That would be this guy.
We'll get to that later.
So kickers, you have what you're looking for is a good offense that's playing against a good defense, or a mediocre offense playing against a bad defense that you don't think they're going to be able to punch it in the end zone, but you think they're going to be able to move it up and down the field a little bit. Okay, so you do that, and then you settle on Cody Parkey, and then he rifles 4 of them into the uprights. Like he's like a 90% field goal kicker all year, and he rifles 4 of them into the uprights. Like there's no statistical way to mitigate risk on this unless you have a year where you have Greg Zerline who hits everything 60 yards and in. Like it's just not. There's no. It's guessing. Like you may as well take the kickers on the free agent pool, throw a dart at a dartboard, and whichever one you hit, start them, because you're gonna. I mean, you've got just as good of a chance.
I disagree.
And that's I stream kickers every single week. I don't even care who I pick. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna get somewhere between 6 and 12 points. Who cares?
I'd rather take 12 over 6 though. If I'm
absolutely. But if you can tell me, if you can show me consistency on picking the 12 over the 6, I'll drop my entire argument. But you can't, unless you have Greg Zerline.
I would say on average, if you take a mean of kickers kicking indoor versus kickers kicking outdoor, that alone could be a factor that plays into whether or not a kicker, on the whole, on the mean, scores more than another kicker. It's certainly a factor I take into consideration when picking a kicker.
But how does that work for Dan Bailey the last couple?
He's a Vikings kicker, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, I would never pick up a Vikings kicker.
He's a career 88% field goal converter.
Yeah, but he's got that purple jersey on, which in the past 4 years indicates a curse. You have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
So we're into looking at the Dragon Ball knuckle bones is how we're gonna pick kickers. All right.
You just have to watch the Vikings over the past 5 years.
Well, I have watched the Vikings over the past 5 years, and I've enjoyed their kicker struggles more than most.
It's just probably more than you. Listen, I don't make up curses. I don't decide curses. That's up to God through Jesus.
Is that what you learned at Northwestern?
Yes, in my New Testament courses.
There you go.
Which were worth every penny.
All right, so who do you guys have, Jared or Jude?
Jude.
Me too. Last matchup here, Max himself against Monty. I'm not even gonna look at the matchup. I want Max to win. I want Monty to miss playoffs. I've got his first round draft pick.
Look at the matchups though, Ben. It's
Rivers versus.
I'm playing Dream Killer on this one, man. Monty, I don't think has much of a shot.
I mean, there's some. He's got a lot of light matchups for some of his bigger hitting guys, like mixed in against Denver. Apparently, Denver's 21st when it comes to rush defense. 20th against the pass for Pittsburgh. Keenan Allen. I mean, I don't know. He's got some opportunity, but I think your team's still better than his. I mean, I'll take Barkley, Jones, Thielen, and the new reformed Reed with the new quarterback over anybody on Monty's team right now. So
I think Robert Woods has a pretty good game against Detroit too. So watch for that one.
I can see that, but yeah, I think you'll take this week pretty easily. Not easily, but I think you'll take it.
No, I think it'll be fairly simple.
Does Monty hit 100?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Justin Tucker's only had one bad game, so got to rely on that kicker.
He's had a 3, a 4, and a 3 weeks straight.
I just count his bad game as when he missed an extra point to tie the Saints and send it to overtime. So
fair.
Big kind of question mark with Julian Edelman. I still like him as kind of a wide receiver 1.5 with New England, especially if Xavier Rhodes misses this game, which I presume he will.
Yeah.
I guess it probably comes down to how big does the Rivers Allen combination go? Because the rest of the matchups, even like Joe Mixon, you guys, I get that Denver is not who they have been historically against the run. I think the Bengals are such trash that
Jeff Driscoll. That's all you need to say.
Yeah, I don't know how good of a game Mixon is going to have, but Josh Adams too. Like, I guess we'll see what happens, but I don't trust Josh Adams to have a significant.
Washington has a good defense.
They do, and it's gotten better, and they're also on the trade block.
I was just about to say they're on the trading block to pick them up.
So is Denver's. So is Denver's defense on the trade block.
Yep. So, but yeah. So yeah, let's go over it real quick. You got a couple minutes left. Let's go over. I want to hear Jake's argument against having the right to sit players if a win is locked up.
No, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. My viewpoint on fantasy football is you have 9 roster spots, which means you start 9 players. The only time that I've ever wavered on that, and that's irrelevant whether it's to lock up a win or lock up a loss. Obviously, locking up a loss is far more taboo, and I think that there's probably everybody in the league would agree with me on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just fundamentals of playing the game. You have 9 spots, you play 9 players. The only time that I've ever wavered on that is if you have, like, let's say you have, a shallow roster, 4 bench spots. I play in a league where there's 4 bench spots. My quarterback or my tight end is Travis Kelce. He's on bye. I don't really want to drop any of the 4 players that I have to pick up a junk tight end. Maybe you don't start a tight end that week. I ended up dropping a player to start a tight end because I just believe that you have your players, you start them. The other player started their 9. If you have a defense left, it's all about risk mitigation. You put your defense in there, and if they go negative, it's the game. And so it's just the way I've always viewed it, the way I will always view it. I'm not going to throw a hissy fit if somebody benches a player to lock up a win. I just won't do it.
That's on you. I mean, winning is so important to me that I'll bench whoever I need to guarantee a win.
I won't do it in the regular season. Personally, I won't unless, if it means making playoffs or not. But I don't know. I don't think I would do it in the regular season, but in playoffs, if I was up by 2 points and it was my defense or my kicker left, I'm going to sit them. I'm going to take that win. I'm not going to give up a playoff chance to move to the next round because of that.
And for me too, honestly, talking about risk mitigation in particular, the only people I could see me benching, if I presumed that they would have a negative impact on my team, one, it would be a defense. Two, it would be a kicker. Or three, if I did not believe in my quarterback. If I felt like a quarterback had a matchup where he would throw 2 or 3 picks, I could see myself benching in that situation. But I probably would never bench a skilled player because I don't see a skilled player getting net negative points.
Sure. Yeah. And like I said, I voted no on the rule. It's not something that I'm going to sit here and hold my breath about. It's not something I'm going to do either. However, and in that situation, I think it's a kicker and a defense is really the only. If you have a team that's good enough to win while benching a quarterback, the league has different problems in competition levels. This league has some of that, but it's been going on for a few years, and there's been owners in and out and whatever. Something tells me that current league makeup, when and if this league restarts, there won't be the large gap between top and bottom going forward. I think it'll be a lot more level in the future. I don't know who was in before. I just can't begin to fathom how some of these teams were created. But I truly believe that you have 9 roster spots. You start 9 roster spots. It's the game. If you have a poor left tackle, you're not going to not start them. If you have a poor point guard, you're not going to not start them. You're going to put somebody in there. I don't know. It's just what it is. I don't know. It's on me. It's not on you. You do what you're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Do you think LeBron James would sit, a center if it meant locking up a playoff win, playing 4-on-5?
Yeah,
I think he would.
For sure he would.
No, I think he'd just play center and bring somebody else to play the 4. I've seen him start center before.
I know. I'm
He's
just.
all right.
That was the only
in the rules of the game. So if you read the bylaws of the league, it says that there are 9 starting roster spots, and that to me means that those are the roster spots that you play. It just boils down to as simple as that.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
We talk about specifically starting your best lineup. Start the lineup that gives you the best chance to win. That's what that means to me.
The lineup, yeah, the full lineup.
It basically
not part of a lineup that gives you the best chance to win. Start the full lineup.
But ESPN allows me to have an empty roster spot in my starting lineup, and that would constitute my best starting lineup, in my opinion.
ESPN allows you to do a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, they do.
ESPN is not a great format. It's unfortunately one of the easiest to use and most popular, but it's not a great format.
Oh, it's the best one. I play on Yahoo, and Yahoo is dreadful.
Oh, Yahoo is worse. I think there's some private ones. My fantasy league is better in terms of dynasty format. It's a Bearcat to use.
But it costs money. People don't want it.
And it costs money. But in terms of features, it is far and away better.
Yeah. Well, it's getting to be about an hour and 15 minutes that we've been on, so let's wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. Looks like we have 3 viewers aside from ourselves, of course. You can find Max on Twitter at MaxRRimer. You can also find him at native_3, and you can also find him at Kip and Max as well. And you can find Jake Vossler at Dr. V_DPT. I don't know what DPT, I mean physical therapy, Dr. Physical Therapy, Dr. Vossler, Dr. Physical Therapy. What is that?
You got it, Ben. Look at you. Benductive reasoning. at its best.
It seems repetitive, but I like it.
Well, those are my letters. Like so you have, if you go to a medical doctor, they're Dr. Johnson, MD. I'm Dr. Lossler, DPT. That's my title.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Okay. Nice. Well, good to know.
Don't go for our audience. Don't go full chub.
Don't do it.
Do it.
Don't do it.
Never go full chub.
Get the chub. All right, guys. Waivers 11 o'clock tomorrow morning is when they go through. Spend your money. It'll reset week 11 or week 17. Sorry, so you can start using that for trading purposes. Once waivers lock, they will reopen second Wednesday of May, and then the rookie draft, when that takes place, will be third Sunday of preseason, and sometime in between the next week after playoffs end, we will get the roster or the draft order in place, so we know who is picking when, and you can utilize that value to make trades. So you guys have a great day. Have a great night, guys. Thank you for joining us, Max. We appreciate you filling in.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Jake, always a pleasure. You guys take care.
Yeah, you as well.
All right. See you guys.